I feel like you don't play cannons enough.
Yeah, okay. Well, we just played cannons for you, and I'm picking up your sarcasm. It's Klein Alley Show. It's KROQ. There's your cannons. We will unload GOAT together in just a moment for all of the messages that have been piling up there on the GOAT line. Let's find out, though, what's happening in the world. Quick check of your news, and then a brand new hour of the show will begin. We got No Values tickets for you coming up later today, and we'll get you into Six Flags. That is all happening. But first, this.
Grab your Adderall. It's time for some ADD news. My therapist says I'm good enough.
All right, Red Lobster has gone bankrupt, but don't worry, guys. This is great for Red Lobster. They're eliminating their debt, they're restructuring their business, they're moving away from their endless shrimp because they admit that it cost them at least $11 million in profit. And the best part of all of this is that former employees have now been sharing their endless shrimp horror stories, and it is a thrilling read if you get a chance. Just some of the stories I've been coming across from employees were this one guy said, I had a guy come in with his family. It was a family of 5, and he did 16 rounds of shrimp scampi.
Hero.
I had to watch this man eat plates upon plates of scampi, which isn't even served over pasta. It's just shrimp in garlic wine butter. It was so gross.
I mean, you know what? These guys will talk about how it's gross, but there's something beautiful about that as well. Yes, it's gluttonous. Yes, it's unnecessary. But there are certain people. And I did this for a very small time in college where I would get really high with my buddies and we would go take advantage of the endless pasta bowls at Olive Garden. And we got to a system where we go, if we don't eat for like a long time before, we get really high. Let's see if we can put down 6-7 bowls of pasta and live off that.
How many were you able to do in your biggest sitting?
Never more than 3.
Oh, yeah, because pasta is really tough to do endless bowls of.
Yeah, but I mean, there are people that I remember, like, I would even talk to the waiter there. I'd be like, hey, like, what are you dealing with? And they're like, there's some people that come in and they will sit here for hours and they will, and it doesn't really matter because pasta, so there's the profit margins are pretty high on pasta compared to shrimp, but like, there are people that are just built to take advantage of these all-you-can-eat deals.
Well, that was the thing, is most people would make a plan and stay there 4 hours. One person at a Kansas City Red Lobster said this woman watched a solo diner take down 30 orders of fried shrimp within 4 hours. USA! And according to the nutritional information on their website, that's about 14,000 calories. And some other people just saying, hey, I used to make $200 a night before endless shrimp. And then after endless shrimp, I would take home 90 if I was lucky, because they would just get the $20 and just eat endless amounts of food, and they'd only tip on the $20 endless shrimp.
Yeah.
Versus all the other food they were going to get.
I'd love to hear your success stories if you were able to, quote, take down shameful yet also kind of prideful amount of food at one of these situations.
It's funny because for the employees, they're horror stories, and for the consumers, I think they're brags.
Yeah, like, I think there are people right now that are probably high-fiving and be like, we did it.
I got mentioned in the endless.
Yeah, like, we did it.
Stories.
We took them down, because it does kind of feel in a weird way like
you
it's
did it. You
us
were all of a
against
sudden,
the restaurant.
right.
It's us against the
I
man.
beat them.
And we beat the man.
And I wonder now that Red Lobster is going bankrupt if one of those people is like, oh, I feel bad that I'm one of those people that took advantage.
I mean,
because now they're not going to get any Red Lobster.
Right. They kind of, in some ways, it was like one of those, they succeeded so well at what it is they were doing that it ended up being their own demise. It's almost poetic.
It
really.
is poetic.
It's beautiful.
Are the robots coming for my job?
Yes. Later today, we have the return of Man versus Machine. Can average human battle artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
We'll find out later this morning here at KROQ.
Yeah, it is a question that a lot of people ask themselves at one point. And if you are Scarlett Johansson, your job is in jeopardy, and it's potentially resulting in a lawsuit. So OpenAI has said that they're coming out with a new chat GPT. It's going to have a voice assistant. It's going to have an app so that AI intelligence is more accessible to us than ever. And it's coming out soon. But Scarlett Johansson has already been listening to some of the previews, and the voice assistant Sky sounds exactly like Scarlett Johansson did in that movie Her. And she even said that when they were working on this, they approached her to voice the voice assistant. And she was like, yeah, I looked into it, and then eventually, I declined the offer. And then, boom, 9 months later, this voice is coming out, and it sounds exactly like me. So now her lawyers are asking them, like, hey, why don't you walk us through the process of how you came up with this voice, because it's literally her.
Yeah, and I'm sure at some point, whoever built that thing in the lab was like, make it sound just like Scarlett Johansson, because that's what they do.
Because they wanted it to sound inviting, and people are already familiar with her voice and her voice in that movie, so they feel like it's more comforting to be talked to by a robot when it's Scarlett Johansson. So it was really important that it sounded like her.
And they're not wrong. Like, imagine how much more you would like to hear a robot that sounded like Scarlett Johansson than like Rosie O'Donnell or something. Like, it's such a more pleasant sounding robot.
What do you want to search for?
Right. And by the way, when that movie first came out, everyone thought it was so creepy and weird that the guy literally fell in love and had a sexual relationship with a voice assistant. That is now doesn't even seem weird anymore.
I feel like we'll see an article. It's like 1 in 8 people has fallen in love with a robot.
I think that number is going to be, honestly, 1 in 2 people within the next 5 years.
All right, what is the worst way to catch your partner cheating? Is it something blunt, like walking in on him, or...
You tell us, Allie. You're the expert.
No, I've never been cheated on by my wife, all right? Or is it worse to hear it from a friend or from your own dog? Now, this woman claims that she discovered her husband was cheating on her...
On the roof.
What?
That's all dogs can do. That's always the thing. Like, how can the dog rat out the person?
Oh, my God. Are you making a roof
No, I'm saying,
joke?
You said that. How could the person be ratted out by the dog? That's all dogs can do.
I'll tell you how. The dog...
The bark. They make 2 noises, Allie.
You got another one?
They don't do it. That's all I got.
Okay.
You don't want to yip one or anything?
That's it.
So they got a new puppy, and the puppy ate something.
What could you do with ARF? ARF.
He did her in the arm.
That one's funny. It took you a while, but you got to it.
Just got to give this show a chance. We'll get there eventually.
So they ended up going to the vet as an emergency trip because the dog had eaten something that he wasn't supposed to.
Oh, my God.
And the dog threw up a thong that was not hers.
Oh, my God. Damn, that's the greatest.
Klein, the world, Ellie, famous show, KROQ. Klein, Alley Show. Mornings on KROQ.
KROQ. Klein Alley Show. Let's find out what's going on in the world. Then we get into a brand new hour, complete with your tickets to go to the No Values Tour. All the bands will be there. Pomona in June. We'll get you in. That's coming up next hour here at KROQ. But first, your news.
Grab your Adderall. It's time for ADD News. I can already feel myself getting dumber.
So P. Diddy, or as Klein likes to call him, P. Hitty, which is a terrible nickname, is experiencing some of the fallout from his newly released video of him beating up his girlfriend, rightly so.
And by the way, if that video exists, think of all the things that were not on video that happened.
Of course. Well, his former bodyguard has already come out and said, I have seen P. Diddy hit women regularly. So it's not like it was just a one-off oopsies moment. This is something that happens on a regular basis, and I'm sure there's plenty of other evidence and witness testimony to corroborate that. But the Instagram apology didn't seem to get P. Diddy very far. Streaming for his music has plummeted. Peloton is now eliminating his music from their library completely. He could be...
KROQ is also no longer going to play any P. Diddy music.
Oh, good. Okay, you mean that one song?
I don't think we ever did, but we're going to continue that streak. And I want to be proud about that because I can say with Omar, I'm not sure if it happened before us, but it feels like I can proudly say KROQ has had a no Diddy recipe from the very beginning.
On Kevin and Bean, I seem to remember that we did interview the guy once when Kevin and Bean went to New York.
Then they
for
support.
VMAs.
We never did. Never had the chance, and we stand by that. That is our legacy.
Do you think this is the worst of the fallout? He may have his key to the city revoked. He might be the first person ever to have his key to the city from New York City revoked.
Well,
because
those
they talked
keys
to the
don't
mayor.
do anything anyway.
So, yeah, the mayor said, well, we've never revoked a key before, but now we're looking into it and we're going to make a decision in the next couple of days. But I'm like, what does the key to the city even do? You just get a key and everyone likes you, right? I mean, the key doesn't actually do anything.
Doesn't open anything.
But I think it's probably a pretty shameful thing to have to bring the key back and return it like an old set of apartment keys when you move.
The only way it would be great would be if they, like, when they gave him the key, I'm sure it was a whole setup and a podium.
Well,
and
it's like a big, comically large
key.
magic key.
They should have to, you're absolutely right, do the same exact public. It's not, if he just sends it back in the mail quietly, he should have to shamefully.
He needs to do the exact same process.
Yeah,
but
everyone
for
gathers
returning
around
the
and
key.
then hands the key back in.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a big to-do. All right, is inflation finally deflating after all these years? Inflation started, then tipflation, shrinkflation. All of it has been putting a strain on all of us financially, emotionally. It's been rough. But it seems that there is a tiny shred of light at the end of the tunnel. Number one, eggs and milk are finally going down in price. Grocery store prices in general have gone down for the first time in a year.
That's not right. They say it's right, but it's not right. I've been to the grocery store. I was there the other day.
It's still astronomical.
Shocking what the total was.
I went to buy olive oil at Costco, and it was $38 for those big things of olive oil. But
Were
I
you
feel
doing
like it was,
hot women wrestling in oil?
I had to load up.
All right. You need a lot of it.
And it had to be extra virgin.
Gotta be. You know it. They call that the Jake oil.
Target, who is very guilty of inflated pricing, have announced that they are cutting prices on 5,000 of their items, including meat, milk, bread, fresh fruit, pet food, soda, and things like paper towels and diapers. So that's good. On the opposite end of the spectrum, here's a nominee for worst person ever. This restaurant has been receiving backlash because they placed a sticker over the no-tip option on their card reader.
Oh, smart.
And if you look at the picture,
look at that.
It's like one of those label makers.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
over the, other or no tip, it just says tip, thank you.
There's no way to even get out of that screen unless you tip. You're forced to tip or you can't exit.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. So is that messed up? I mean, if it's at a restaurant where, when you're sitting down, all that stuff, you're kind of tipping is customary. You're supposed to tip in those scenarios. But if it's like a coffee shop where you don't always tip, then why cover it up?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're all guilt tipping. They don't even have to do the sticker. They just have to stare at you when you have to make that decision. The best is when they ask you to make that decision and then they turn around and they start working on your coffee. Then you can go the whole, like, quick, let me get out of here.
I know.
No. But when they just kind of say, hey, I'm just going to ask you a question, they flip it to you and then they kind of stare at you, you're like, oh, my God.
I know. And then you flip it back and they look down and then they look up at you and go, thank you.
Yep.
And you're like,
They got us. They got us.
Yeah, they did.
Klein, Alley Show. The world famous KROQ. KROQ.
Soak up the sun at Six Flags Hurricane Harbor. We'll give you tickets to both parks, and you'll get them with us in 5 minutes. The second we're done with your ADD News, which starts right now here on KROQ. Hit it.
Grab your Adderall. It's time for ADD News. Anyway, I saw a dog today.
So, Klein, you've been a supporter of the 4-day work week for years, and more companies have been trying it out, and most of them claim it's been very successful. And then there's Samsung, who told their executives, hey, you know what? It's been a rough quarter. We're going to up it to a 6-day work week, effective immediately.
No.
And the rumor is that more companies that are having rough times financially are considering a 6-day work week mainly for upper management positions.
We're going to have an 8-day work week.
What?
Oh. Boo.
What did he say?
He said, soon we're going to have an 8-day work week. And it's funny because there's not 8 days, but it's like so much work.
But he tripped over his own words when he said it. So it was bad to begin with. And didn't come out clean either.
If he had had sex, that would have he would have landed.
Jesus. I want to stop the show and apologize to everyone. I'm sorry. It's not always great
And
here.
this is coming from a guy who made a wolf joke earlier in the show.
That's right. Thank you for trampling over that terrible memory.
So they surveyed a bunch of companies and they got the on what's the ideal work week. 20% said 32-hour week. 61% said regular 5-day work week. 12% said 6-day work week. And 4% said, if anyone's willing to work more than 48 hours a week, we'll take it.
What is going on with the world? This company,
We're
Samsung,
splitting off.
I like Samsung. I got some of their TVs, but this will lead to a mass exodus because people are honestly.
I disagree.
Really?
Because this is I know a guy who is in upper management. He makes an excellent living, and he works 7 days a week. And he feels that he needs to deliver a certain quality of performance
to earn his salary.
Exactly. And this guy gets paid very well.
I think some people, that make like $1 million a year or whatever. And there are some people, you're right, Klein, that are in upper management positions that don't do anything. But there are some that, hey, they make a lot of money, and the drawback is that they're kind of on the clock all the time. They might have a Saturday
this guy is wired.
meeting.
He's wired that way. Yeah, I mean, he can't wait to retire, but he's just a workaholic.
Yeah, but I think people will crumble. You put that sort of.
But Omar's right.
Pressure.
Some people love it. Some people don't consider it to be a burden. It's like, hey, I'll have a Sunday lunch meeting, no problem.
They say do what you love because then you don't think of it as work. But eventually, at some point,
or they love the money and the power, and they're power hungry, and it makes them feel good about themselves.
I wouldn't know.
This guy, he's like, he's one of these guys who just loves winning. Like this guy does not fail at anything. It's crazy.
But in some ways, he's failing because he's not giving himself, and he doesn't realize what he's missing. But he's not getting any downtime.
Dude,
he's not getting any.
He has a fulfillment. Dude, the guy gets, he goes on these exotic vacations with his family.
Well, that's
he
downtime.
has a great. Well, yeah, some. You have to have some.
All right, so he's taking a break. You make it sound like he's working 365, 7 days a week.
I think he's on call all the time, though.
He is on call. Probably on vacation still. He's taking calls and stuff like that, but he does go on vacation.
No, Jake, don't double down on that joke.
Don't do it. It's not the hill you want to die on, man.
That is not funny either way.
All right, one of the worst things about flying, aside from all the doors and wheels falling off of the Boeing planes, is when you get a flight with bad turbulence. It's kind of scary. At least once you think to yourself, God, is this how I'm going to go? And usually it ends up fine. But if you get freaked out by turbulence, you will not want to hear this story because somebody just died from turbulence. There was a flight on Singapore Airlines, and I don't know how often this happens. I can't imagine it's often, but the plane got trapped in a random air pocket, and there was crazy turbulence. They had to divert to a different airport and land in Bangkok. But 30 people were injured. And one person died. It was an older guy, but he had a heart attack because the turbulence was so bad.
Yeah, but they'll make the argument he may have had that regardless. I mean, I'm sure it didn't help.
A lot of things can trigger a heart attack, right? It's not like it's directly like the guy hit his head and had blunt force trauma and died.
You occasionally hear the stories of the turbulence, unexpected turbulence, where the person's like, standing up and they break their neck on the ceiling.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to be standing up anyway.
Well, if you're going to the bathroom or you're stretching.
Well, if there's turbulence, you have to have your seatbelt
I said
buckled.
Unexpected, though. Sometimes they get that unexpected, like, whoopsies, didn't see that coming. And then boom. But they always do say, at least the pilots claim, turbulence is nothing to be scared of. It's like driving over potholes, driving down the street in Southern California, which we're all used to now.
Yeah, but that sucks.
Absolutely.
All right. Summer is just around the corner. It's the unofficial start of summer, Klein. You've heard it here, and you've heard it many, many times, and you'll hear it forever again. But this summer, an old trend from last year is coming back. It's the Borg, guys. The Borg is back,
Borg.
Otherwise known as the Blackout Rage Gallon. Yeah. It's the drink of choice for Gen Z. Johnny, I don't know if you can corroborate that, but if you don't know what a Borg is, it is a gallon-sized plastic jug that contains typically vodka, other distilled alcohol, water, a flavor enhancer, an electrolyte powder or drink, and the Borg is often drinking at outside day parties, otherwise known as darties.
And you could turn a bunch of... Allie's never sounded older than reporting that story, but you could...
And I read this on CNN.
Thanks for eavesdropping in on our radio show, you perverts.
Yeah. When you're not being reported by your neighbors, you can check out the podcast or the live show on KROQ or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right, which apparently is a lot of places. Find Klein Alley's show and listen to this show in its entirety. Plus, if you download and subscribe, we will save a puppy from being executed.
Oh my God, there's puppies being executed?
Oh, there goes another one.
Oh, those are high stakes.